Hello, I'm Deborah Malone, founder of The Internationalist and host of Internationalist Marketing TV. Today's guest is Michael Moszynski, the founder of the new London AI. Michael, it is a pleasure to see you again. Over the years, it's been in many different incarnations, but now you're on a very exciting path with London AI. I can't wait to talk about it, and welcome to the show.
Oh, great to see you again, Deborah, and thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure because you always provoke the industry. And I think that takes a lot of courage. So let's begin by saying that you launched London AI with an ad campaign telling people how bad AI is. Why start with the negatives? And what reaction were you hoping to provoke?
Well, there's been, considerable hype around, will AI save the world, change the world, whatever. And we wanted to just take it back a couple of notches because the truth is we need to deal with the issues that companies faced with and the challenges they've got because there's a lot of uncertainty. People are trialing things. They don't really see it in a holistic perspective within their overall business. And what we, from our like London advertising heritage, bring is strategic understanding, customer understanding, and creative thinking across a whole business. And what we discovered is that by using advertising, we can create awareness. It's still valid in today's world, and that we should apply our skills to our own business as though we were a separate client. And yes, obviously the idea of AI can't do everything has been executed with some wit, but it was also interesting the whole process of co-creating that with AI, because obviously we're a startup business, so we need to look after the dollars and pennies, and it was a very rich and rewarding experience.
You've always been very good about, I must say, over the years of using advertising for your own issues. And there's not many agencies that actually do that. But you actually really chose a blend of humor and honesty. To talk about AI, and of course, and the launch of London AI, which in a way is an extension of such a long heritage that you've had with London advertising. But do you think the ad industry has become a little bit too enamored with hype over truth, or maybe that's really an irrelevant question?
I think the industry is facing the biggest challenge it's had. I mean, we've had challenges obviously over the years as different media come on board, but we're in a situation for the advertising industry where something like 80% of the agency revenue model is on execution. The things that AI can't do is strategy and creative, and we mostly give away that for free in the pitch, and then we get paid for execution. Well, guess what, guys? AI is going to take over producing the 28 Facebook variant that is required. So we have to go back to, I'm talking about it as an industry, go back to charging for the strategic thinking because AI, if you feed in, a client brief, will give you a very homogenized view because it's looking at what's already there. It's like driving a car in a rear view mirror. What you need is human strategic and creative leaps to go into the future. And so from that point of view, I'm very optimistic about the future of the advertising industry, but it's going to take a big shift in how the industry charges. We've always been much more at the sharper end of creative thinking, strategy, and project management to make it happen, but not having a revenue base that was predicated on what I always call folding cardboard.
You make a good point because, everybody talks about AI capabilities, but I'm not sure that they're necessarily defining them in terms of what that means from a human capability and that linkage with strategy and so on. And you make a very good point. As a matter of fact, I think that you've described London AI as human-led thinking, tech-enabled delivery.
Yeah.
So just again, that's pretty clear to me, but just what does that mean in practice? And perhaps another obvious question, but where does human judgment still outperform the machine? And given that you and I are veterans, I think of this industry, I think we might know the answer to that.
Well, that's a huge question. Well, set of questions. The key point is that business is still around people. You need to communicate if you need to do change management within a company. So, for example, if there's a business that is looking to adopt AI to improve its efficiency, rather than the CEO writing to each department head and asking them to come up with their recommendations on how they can adopt AI in their department, which will lead to a very fractured perspective. What we're suggesting is much more important is to have a holistic view across the business, across all the different departments, because they all interrelate. And what we're offering is clarity of thinking through human intelligence that's guiding both the company through human interactions with those business leaders, but also with a knowledge and understanding of where the AI can help their bottom line. And so there's a lot of consultancies who are just doing the strategy, almost like the sort of McKinsey of here's a report and let you get on with it. And there's a lot of companies that are very good in terms of tech, but they don't understand business strategy. And we're in this very early phase where all the pieces haven't, fallen down on the playing board. So what we set out to do was to be a best of both worlds approach. And this came about because, in fact, somebody who'd seen one of my presentations in a event in Mykonos 5 years ago turned out to become, and he was just an intern helping facilitate the event. He saw my presentation on advertising, and he's become an absolute tech wizard in terms of automation and AI. And he thought that for his business, although they were going like a rocket, that there was no brands operating in their sector. So he felt they needed to create a brand, and he came to us at London Advertising to help create one for him. And through that conversation over a couple of months, the company, which is called Cybix, said, actually, you guys have all the skill sets we don't have in terms of strategy, creative, etc., and that experience coming back to being, veterans in the business. So we know how to direct, and communicate, through an old-fashioned role of account handling clients to come to outcomes. So a lot of our team retrained in AI consultancy, which is really a business, but with an understanding of tech. And then our colleagues who asked to form a joint venture with us will do the automation and implementation. So that's where London AI came from. And we're meeting a fantastic response in the marketplace.
Oh, no, and it seems to be the integration of two parts of the puzzle. And I sometimes think that people, marketers in particular, are so focused on AI as new tech and so on that they might be asking the wrong questions. You often hear people saying that they worry that it will dilute creativity or make that sameness, or it won't connect enough with empathy. But then again, if it is human led, maybe that's not quite the right question. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think, if you're just talking about so the first department that becomes the sort of test bed for AI, typically in a company, is marketing. And we see the big media agencies are now, having the conversations with the big clients saying, we can give you this nirvana of programmatically bought media with tailored, personalized ads to each, message tested, etc., through AI to deliver maximum, return on investment. And that's getting a lot of hearing, but it's still in the area of performance marketing. And I think, unfortunately, the industry and pressure on clients from CFOs and CEOs to deliver quarterly results is that you end up focusing on what can be measured, but what's measured isn't always what's important, and what's important isn't always measurable in the short term. So I think that the case still exists for the importance of brand and all the work that the IPA in the UK did on the long and the short of it, that 60% of the client's marketing spend should be spent building the long-term brand value and 40% to harvest it through performance marketing. And unfortunately, a lot of the conversations I see happening in the marketing environment are about the performance marketing and efficiency side of things. But you still need, that big creative leap to do something that's different to your competitors. So, as I said before, if you just take what the generative AI recommends, you'll end up with everyone, in the same space because it's based on the same information and data. And humans still um, possess the capacity to create a leap, which is what makes things different and stand out.
No, you're right. And I was talking to someone this week who actually mentioned that a junior person on their staff used AI to come up with this brilliant plan going forward, um, which you almost couldn't argue with, except that the head marketer actually said, you haven't lived long enough to realize that this would probably fail. So, so
Well,
yeah.
I also think that this issue of experience is going to be so important because at the moment, if you've worked in the industry, say my creative partner has been a creative director for 35 years, he can create the prompts to get the AI to act in a way like he said in the past, he'd have two or three junior teams he'd write a brief, he'd come up with maybe a concept or ask them to, and 90% of it would be thrown away, or he'd then ask them to develop something, and he can use AI in that basis, but only because he has that 35 years of experience to know how to ask the AI what would be relevant and appropriate. Whereas somebody coming fresh into the industry doesn't have that perspective. So I think that the concern would be is, and this is not just in advertising, it's in the legal world, accountancy, consultancy, etc., where for the first time there's a technology that's threatening white collar workers. And we're seeing it here. Certainly, like the big four accountancy firms have reduced their graduate intake by 30%. So how do those junior people then get that experience so that they can then tell the machines what to do? That's, I think, a dilemma that the industry is, or business has yet to resolve. But it can certainly be a facilitator.
It's even exacerbated by the fact that so many people opt to work from home a number of days a week, and then you're not in the same environment with people. No, I agree with you. It's a serious problem for business in general, and I'm not sure that's one that AI is going to solve. But back to just AI and the whole world of advertising and marketing. I mean, it truly is making some fundamental shifts, not only in what it can do, but how agencies are structured, how the clients themselves, not only how I don't think it's affecting yet how they're structured, but it's certainly affecting how they're working with various suites of agencies. But I'm also hearing that it's really been a boon to independent agencies. Would you agree with that? Or,
Yes, I think that it's in a way a bit of a leveler because you can access research, you can access information in a way there was a barrier to entry for smaller companies versus their bigger competitors. I think that the ability for I always say to people that for me AI is like an intelligent version of Google, and what has been allowed to perpetuate even in the era of the internet, which was about facilitating friction-free capitalism, according to Bill Gates, is that we still had companies who were able to use marketing skills and techniques to actually create a price premium which is artificial. And I'm actually a great believer in the power of free market economics when, not without restriction, but in a way that allows proper competition to exist. So people have, you know, uh, the free market models, but predicated on the concept of economic man. Economic man has perfect knowledge and perfect ability to use it. And so the internet probably helped with near perfect knowledge, because if you were going out to a restaurant, you could actually, spend 2 hours with the internet and explore the wine list and the price points that they were offering. And some restaurants are really good. They want to bring great value through the wines that they serve and to, give a great experience to their customer. And some are malevolent. They know that people have heard of Saint-Emilion, so they'll put a Saint-Emilion on the menu, on the wine list, which is actually an inferior year, but mark it up as though it was a good year. But you're not going to spend 2 hours before you go to a restaurant to do that research. So the knowledge, or the information was there, but the ability to use it wasn't perfect. Today, you can tell ChatGPT you're going to a restaurant, which wines are good value for the type of food you want to eat, and what's their attitude as a restaurant to their pricing in their wine list, and get recommendations that are hugely informed in seconds. So I think this perfect knowledge and perfect ability to use it will create actually a better marketing environment where everyone buys things that they value. There isn't a value brand and a non-value brand. If I want to spend a lot of money on a car because it makes me feel great, I do it because I get value from it. So I think it's just that the people will be able to make informed choices about where they sit on the price point of whether it's a hotel room, a bottle of wine, or luxury car. So I think that's really good, but it will still require brands in those purchase decisions, because we're not living in a virtual reality world where we just put on a headset and sit back and all our food's delivered and we do our holidays in a virtual experience. We are social creatures. We want human experiences, and that's where, again, if you recommend a product that you've enjoyed, the brand is a shortcut for me to be able to remember it and for me to try it myself. So I think human intelligence, human experiences are going to be even more important going forward, and we just use the tech to actually get to better outcomes.
You make a good point. You make a good point, particularly as it relates to marketers' dilemmas about brand building now. I mean, obviously, you brought up at the beginning, that performance marketing in a digital age has kind of made the pendulum swing a certain direction because people think it's measurable and they're making quarterly improvements and so on. But brand building in the age of AI, that's pretty fascinating. Does it mean going back to basics with some added acceleration, so to speak? I mean, that I think that might be cracking the code of what's really going on now.
Well, I think you've raised a very, very interesting question, because if you look at most brands, apart from launching new versions, their core brands are not growing. Maybe 1 or 2%, but hardly keeping in pace with inflation. And I think part of that we've seen has been because of this pendulum swinging so much into the performance marketing side, that they've forgotten actually that, what builds long-term value, and you can see that in stock market prices of brands, as those that have a strong brand do always do better. Is the And that's the opportunity for the far-sighted companies to really see how they can use this new era of technology in a way that will help them grow brand value. And yes, I think advertising agencies are a component of that, not the only component, of course, but I think that's where our sort of pivot ourselves from being a pure advertising agency to offering a AI consultancy where should they then wish to, see what that implies for their brand building, we can also then offer, because it's actually a similar skill set in terms of those core experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I think brand value is at the core of getting this right. But you built an agency on human storytelling, and which was truly wonderful. Um, so what's the most surprising human thing that you've seen AI do? Or how do you take the glory of what you did and bring that into this evolution? Or maybe it's not an evolution, maybe it's just tech enhanced and accelerated. I mean, I'm not sure we know.
Well, the most surprising thing that I got from AI was its ability to teach me how to rewire my central heating. So I didn't have to call in an electrician at vast expense. So there's a lesson there. I think that well, I was on a panel yesterday with some great luxury marketeers, and we were talking about the impact of AI on luxury marketing. And actually, what we've seen is there's been a faster growth in experiential luxury than traditional luxury. So I think the long-term prognosis is that uh, AI will allow us to put more effort on the human experiences that people value most, which it's humans that create storytelling, not a machine, that engage people and build emotional value. Yes, it can mimic that, but you will just be we will see common denominator outcomes because it homogenizes everything. So I think that's the way forward. And I'll give you a small example. So one of the clients that our colleagues at Cybex were working with is the UK's largest supplier of artist materials, so paintbrushes, canvases, etc. And they had a very progressive owner. He wanted to use AI to make the company more efficient, but he didn't want to use it to reduce his headcount. So one example is they had 5 people producing a monthly newsletter. And with the automation of that, 4.5 people's time was no longer required to do that. And what we recommended was that they then use that additional time on their hands to put those people into customer facing roles. So automation can often lead to the wrong outcome. So how many times have you rung up a company and you've heard your call is important to us, please hold? Well, what if that company was able to answer those calls more directly first time of a human? So I see that as very positive. I actually wrote a tweet to thank Amazon. I had an issue on a purchase where I really thought I was going to go into robo chat hell. I had no idea that if I called Amazon and had a problem, I would explain what the problem was to a human being who picked up the phone within 2 rings, and their immediate reply was, "I'm so sorry to hear that. We will issue an immediate refund." I mean, wow, that's a hugely automated, computerized company doing fantastic customer service. And I think that's why we talk about human intelligence and human experience, and using that as the strategy for the integration of AI within a business. And part of it was before we created London AI, we were working with an American company that's actually one of the largest privately owned AI businesses. It's been going for 30 years, and they had their own AI technology that's been used by heavy industry across the world. So typically, say for example, an oil refinery has 34 different operating systems running all of its functions, but they all act independently. Whereas actually, when you close off that valve, it has an impact on something downstream. So they're able to save an oil refinery $3 per barrel. Now, when you're producing 10 billion barrels across say, Nigeria, that's their output. Sorry, that's Saudi, I should say. That's a lot of saving. It's also the biggest saving a company can make on its carbon output because it's much more fuel efficient. So I think those sorts of things are fantastic. And we need to help companies understand the process to securing those outcomes, because a lot of it is very defensive because people are worried about their jobs, or they don't quite understand it. But the opportunities, are there. They're huge.
Maybe to go back to what you said earlier about young graduates, maybe the solution or a partial solution is their entryway into a company is through customer service, which is a great way of learning about all of the products and so on. It may not be the same as getting, a higher level executive job, but it doesn't mean that with that understanding, that might be how some of the knowledge could grow. But then again, I'm not sure where, our role is to solve all the problems of the world.
Well,
It's
I'll
not
give you a good
that great.
example.
Yeah.
We have a colleague in Saudi at the moment attending a conference on the impact and the impact of AI on the luxury hospitality business. And obviously, Saudi's trying to grow that to, develop post oil. And, some of the agenda items are, how can we create personalized AI agents that can provide chatbots to help tourists create a bespoke, agenda for themselves. I think that's missing the point. I think what they need is to have human beings interacting with their customers who use that technology to help put together, itineraries and information in a very efficient way, so that that human agent can deal with 10 times more clients than they could in the past.
No, I think you're right. I absolutely think that you're onto something. And you make a good point about the technology and human integration. So just to go back to you and your role in the business now and so on, and you've always been good about philosophizing about the future. Um, I mean, a couple of quick questions. How do you imagine the creative department a few years from now?
Well, I think it will be, it should be bigger, as you move away from execution to idea generation. And I think going back to that point about young people coming into the industry, yes, I think people should go and work in a restaurant or in a tourism, to learn to deal with people, because you still need that in business. So I think that's a really good insight. I think there's a debate happening in universities. I don't know what its situation is in America, but here, you know, some are like, well, we need to stop these students using AI to, in their university education, writing their essays, versus those who say, actually, this tool's out there. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. We need to empower these people to be able to use AI brilliantly so that they can come into the workforce with some value to add, or a journey which can get them to a more senior role where they can then, drive the machine. But yeah, that's an unfinished debate.
Least an understanding of its limitations at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And then what your role is. Your role is not just to spew out AI information, but I mean, which is where maybe critical thinking comes in. So do you think we'll ever stop saying AI and just call it advertising in our industry?
No, I think AI is a tool, like data, or
No, no, I mean it'd be funny if your name went back to the original.
Oh, I see.
You never know. Well, what advice would you give to clients? Let's start with that in terms of how they should evaluate AI tools from their agencies, or how they might even think about in-house or not.
Well, I think that this bit about going back to first principles. I don't think that they should just be looking at, what their agencies are recommending. I think they need to have a much more holistic and we talk about clarity a lot. We offer is clarity across the business of how those. It's the using my analogy of the oil refinery. A business, can often have 7 different departments or different work streams, and if you only look at each one in isolation, you're not going to get the benefits of the integration across the organization. So, what we do is we go in and interview and have a very structured approach to being able to look at for that particular business what it's trying to achieve, how it could have a journey to then integrating it in a smooth way, rather and where the business objectives of that company are driving the technology, not ad hoc technological sort of happenstances.
No, and you have always talked about holistic, and holistic element and clarity, and I have no doubt that and your usual penchant for being provocative will all come together and challenge the industry norms to integrate this in a wonderful way. So I congratulate you on your move forward, and I look forward to hearing not only how it goes for London AI, but how your thoughts may evolve on this whole changing crazy industry right now.
I look forward to coming back exactly on that. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today. It's been very stimulating.
A pleasure, always a pleasure. Talk to you soon, I hope.
Excellent.
The Internationalist focuses on the continual reinvention of marketing by highlighting inspirational marketers around the world and their ideas as they move the industry forward. Internationalist Marketing TV shares these perspectives through interviews and personal stories. Thanks so much for watching. If you find this kind of content helpful, please click like or subscribe. Again, thanks so much.